Before the emperor takes a single bite, someone else must face the danger first. In imperial Rome, a feast could display power, but beneath the gold and marble, it could also hide fear. Your task sounds simple: taste the emperor's food before he does. But in a court shaped by ambition, one wrong bite could turn service into sacrifice. The danger was not only in the food, it was in the room. Behind every cup of wine were servants, rivals, informers, and men who understood that Rome was ruled by proximity to power. To serve near the emperor was an honor. To stand too close to him was a risk, because emperors did not live surrounded by loyalty alone. They lived surrounded by ambition. According to ancient writers, poison was one of the fears that haunted Roman power. Whether real, rumored, or exaggerated, the idea was powerful enough to make every banquet suspicious. Ancient histories are filled with suspicion, betrayal, convenient deaths, and accusations that were not always easy to prove. What remains clear is this: fear shaped how imperial power protected itself. Somewhere between kitchen and throne, the taster became a human line of defense. He did not need to control politics. He only needed to survive its consequences. And every meal began long before the emperor reclined at the table. Ingredients came from markets, villas, ports, and provinces across the Roman world. That abundance made imperial luxury possible. It also made control almost impossible. A single dish might pass through farmers, merchants, cooks, slaves, guards, and servants before it reached imperial hands. Each hand added distance, and each distance added doubt. By the time the platter reached you, the danger might already be sealed inside. In Rome, the kitchen was not only a place of preparation, it was where power became vulnerable. A careless cook could ruin a meal. A corrupted one could change the fate of a court. The emperor's meal passed through a chain of trust, and every link could break. Before you tasted anything, you had to read the room. Who looked too calm? Who avoided the cup? Who watched you instead of the emperor? In that silence, your survival depended on details no one else wanted to notice. A strange smell, a bitter trace, a servant's hesitation. Any of them could matter. But the worst danger was that poison did not always announce itself. It could be imagined in wine, sauces, mushrooms, herbs, or honeyed dishes. Anything rich enough to hide a trace. And if the danger worked slowly, your warning might come too late. That was the cruel logic of the job. You were useful only if you survived long enough to prove the meal was safe. If you became ill immediately, the emperor might be saved, but you would not be. If you survived, the emperor ate, and the room returned to pretending nothing had happened. The palace survived by making danger invisible, and nobody understood invisible danger better than the person ordered to taste it. But poison was only one threat. Suspicion could be just as dangerous. If the emperor became ill, the court would search for a cause, and someone close to the meal would be exposed. The cook, the cupbearer, the servant, the taster, anyone near the food could become a suspect. Your survival depended not only on what you swallowed, but on what powerful people believed about you. In the imperial court, innocence was rarely enough. You needed protection, but protection in Rome was never free. It came with loyalty, favors, and silence. Belong to the wrong household, trust the wrong servant, offend the wrong noble, and your position could become a trap. The closer you stood to imperial power, the smaller your own life could become. A banquet was theater. Every gesture was watched. Every pause could be misunderstood. If your hand trembled, someone noticed. If you hesitated, someone remembered. And if you looked too afraid, fear itself could make you appear guilty. This was not only a test of the body, it was a test of control. You had to taste slowly enough to seem careful, but not so slowly that the room turned against you. You had to watch the emperor without appearing to watch him, because the emperor's face could tell you whether the meal was safe or whether the trap had only begun. Some emperors feared rivals. Others feared their own families. Succession could turn a dining room into a battlefield without a single sword drawn. The food taster stood at the edge of that struggle, close enough to die, but rarely powerful enough to matter. His body became evidence. His reaction became information. Every swallow was followed by waiting. A heartbeat, a breath, a glance from the emperor. If nothing happened, the feast continued. If something changed, the room would remember who tasted first. And if the emperor lived, no one thanked the man who had taken a risk. He was remembered only when something went wrong. That was the price of surviving near the emperor. Your life mattered only when it could protect his. Rome's greatest danger was not always outside its walls. Sometimes it sat at the table. A battlefield had enemies you could see. A palace hid them behind smiles, silk, and silence. You could not accuse anyone. You could not refuse the dish. You could only taste and wait. The waiting was part of the terror. A few moments could decide whether you were trusted, forgotten, or sacrificed. And if you survived the bite, the danger did not end. It moved to the next cup. Wine was especially dangerous because it passed through so many hands before reaching the emperor. A cupbearer could be loyal, bribed, frightened, or already trapped by someone more powerful. In a palace, even loyalty could be manufactured by fear. That meant the taster was not only protecting the emperor from poison, he was protecting him from the palace itself. But no taster could protect an emperor from every enemy. Rome was too large, too ambitious, and too hungry for control. An emperor could survive one meal and still lose the empire in the Senate, the army, or his own household. For the taster, every meal was only a small part of a much larger war. And the more powerful the emperor became, the more dangerous his table could feel. Luxury did not reduce suspicion. It gave suspicion more places to hide. A soldier might fear a spear. A taster feared the feast, because a feast could harm quietly, politely, and without warning. No alarm, no battle cry, just a cup lifted at the wrong moment. And if you were ordered to taste it, the room would fall silent around you. For a moment, every eye in the palace belonged to you, not because you were powerful, but because you were useful. If the food was safe, your fear disappeared into the ceremony. If it was not, your body became the warning. That was the terrible bargain. The emperor needed you alive, but only until he did not. And tomorrow, another meal would arrive. Another cup, another platter, another silence before the first bite. Survival was not one decision. It was repetition under pressure. You had to survive the food, the court, the rumors, and the people who needed someone to blame. One meal could pass without harm, but fear stayed seated at the table. And in Rome, fear was not a weakness. It was part of how power survived. The emperor ruled millions, yet still depended on strangers not to poison his dinner. That is what made the job so dangerous. It stood where luxury, paranoia, and mortality touched. The taster was not remembered like generals, emperors, or builders. His courage was quiet. His battlefield was a table. His enemy might be invisible. So, could you survive as a food taster for a Roman emperor? Maybe, if you could read faces, control fear, earn protection, and accept that every meal might be your last. But surviving would not make you powerful. It would only make you useful for one more night. Because in the Roman palace, even survival belonged to someone else. And the most dangerous bite in Rome was not always the emperor's. It was yours.